Spiritual expansion, soul sauce edition potluck podcast. I just love stringing those words together. It's fun. Everybody is weird in their own way, and it's okay. And the more we can understand that, and the more we can share our weirdness, the more we can release these feelings of shame, these feelings of poor me, why am I different? And we're all different, y'all, and we're all struggling to figure out who we are, and we're all.
It's something that brings me lots of joy and a lot of power to be with it, it gives me, there's nothing wrong with me, or there's nothing different, or this or that, so I feel overjoyed talking about my hyperfixation.
My brother's friends were the same friends of the father who was not only molesting his own children, but also molesting me, and everything was going to be okay. But when you're that young, you don't really know what's right or wrong, you don't know what's happening to you, and he's doing things to me that I can't even comprehend is right or wrong at that time.
All right, everybody, so welcome. Let's have a big round of applause, hippie round of applause for all of you just for showing up today. And joining us for, say it all with me on 3, 1, 2, 3, spiritual expansion, soul sauce edition potluck podcast. I just love stringing those words together. It's fun. So thank you all for being here. By the way, this episode, this event helps to benefit Big Love Yoga Barn. Big Love Yoga Barn is a psychedelic spiritual yoga center over on Central Avenue, and we're getting ready to shut that location down and move to a brand new location. We even have to build it and restock it with all new sorts of psychedelic artwork. Yours truly gets to work on that. Thank you all so much. And you'll all have an opportunity to help paint and build stuff with me.
Yes.
So let's hear a round of applause for y'all and your future endeavors of helping build Big Love Yoga Barn.
Yeah.
So we will ask for donations, so hopefully you'll be generous.
I will donate my opinion, and you will take it.
I could use an extra appendix. Sure, that sounds great.
Opinion, that's different. Go ahead.
So let's see. Let's have just a little introduction of ourselves in the room right here. So let's go around and we'll say our name, and we'll say, okay, the topic of the evening is neurodiversity or neurodivergence. Are both of them acceptable? Mm-hmm. So a very, very sort of specific topic. I think maybe you all have something to say about that. Heather, can we start with you? What's your name? And what has attracted you to this event tonight?
Yes, my name is Heather, and it's an interesting topic. I've never been diagnosed, but I've wondered if maybe I'm on the spectrum and possibly ADHD. I don't know, but maybe on the spectrum at least. So I'm just curious about it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Being that it is a spectrum goes from 0 to 100. And everybody is somewhere in that range because it is a spectrum. So thank you for being here, and you'll probably learn quite a bit. How about back here, buddy?
Yeah, Connor, I've met most of you all, but I am autistic. I was diagnosed as an adult at age 24, so it's a cool topic to bring to this forum.
Nice. Bestow us some knowledge, bro. We appreciate you. Yeah, Chilica.
Great to meet everyone. I'm Jalika. Yes, also diagnosed later in life as a neurodivergent. Somewhere in the Venn diagram of ADHD, autism, variety. We can chat more about it today with the sensory stuff. This is a very sensory friendly space, by the way, I must say. It's very calming.
Oh, beautiful. Wait, what kind of space did you say it was?
Sensory friendly.
Sensory friendly, okay.
Very calming.
All right.
But yeah, I've met different people at different walks of life and always connect on how our brains work differently and how we see the world in different ways. So excited to learn about how everyone here sees the world in different ways.
Wow, love it.
Oh, and I have a brother that is autistic who doesn't speak. Sorry, I forgot to say that. So that's what brought me into the world.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that.
Hi, I'm Edwin. Hi. and was diagnosed as a young age as with Asperger's, which I guess is considered mildly autistic now. Heard that they like wiped it out and switched in a new thing. I don't know, but yeah. So that's my thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I
What?
also have dyslexia, so I don't know if that plays in, but
That's definitely on the neurodivergent spectrum. Totally.
What was your link to this event tonight? How'd you get here? Who brought you?
my mom. She-
Gotcha. Okay.
Aw,
And you're friends with Adrian?
Mhm.
Love it.
awesome.
I know she's doing such a great job. I know. Thank you so much. All right, moving right along.
Hey, Sarah from Ireland, Dublin, originally, completely. Any kind of thing that's wrong with you is the alphabet soup in my life. Okay, we've got ADHD, ADD, OCD, the alphabet soup. Okay, I don't know if I'm coming or going. I'm too much. I'm too little, but I'm here. I'm not too late.
God damn. All right. All right. Well, kiss my Blarney Stone.
Good start there.
All right. Moving right along.
Alright. Hey everybody, my name's Jenna. I think of the neurodivergence, I'm drawn to the CPTSD. That's part of it, correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what is CP?
Complex PTSD?
Okay.
Yeah, so I
Alright.
think
Post-traumatic syndrome, but like worse.
more of like childhood related.
Yeah. Okay.
Like complex layers of it,
Mhm.
and I guess just how that affects a lot how you perceive situations,
Mhm.
and maybe how it affects your autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm sensing you'll have a lot to share.
Yeah, totally. I feel the education behind those words.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that you've been on a spiritual journey as well, so you can incorporate some of your new teachings with what's happened for you in the past, and just share it with everybody. Let us all learn from you. Yeah. Okay.
I'm Judy Ann, and Edwin's my son. I have actually 4 children, and they're all on the spectrum. So I raised him, who, like you said, Asperger and dyslexia. And then I have another one who is auditory processing disorder and tactily defensive. And another one ADHD, and another one ADD. And I was dyslexic back in the day when they didn't diagnose it.
What did you say the second one was?
Auditory processing disorder.
And tactical something?
Tactily defensive.
What does that mean?
Which one?
Tactically defensive.
Tactily defensive is someone who doesn't like to be touched.
Okay.
So try raising a toddler who won't let you hold their hand.
Okay.
You know, or if you put a tie on them, they start gagging. Who did
Totally.
it like he would sit, because even with lunch he didn't want to touch anything, so he'd put one hand here and he would take one thing at a time. I remember he was decorating Christmas cookies, and he literally had one hand in there. There was a cookie there. It was 2 frosting colors. He dipped it in the frosting and then tried to spread it on the cookie without having to touch it. That's tactily defensive.
So, okay, that's when he was young, and now how old is he?
He's 28.
And
Oh, it's great. We did something called Handle, and that was like a real proud moment. Like about 6 months into doing Handle, we were at a park at a party, and he took his shoes off and he's running around barefoot, and I'm like, oh my God, you don't want your shoes on? And he's like, no, and he's playing and running, and when there was like a barrel of stuff, and he's in there digging in it, and I was like, whoa. That was, yeah. So the Handle program was wonderful for all my kids. That was one of the things that I learned, to work with them, and it actually helped me with my dyslexia.
Wow. Ooh, a lot of good stuff there.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Adrian.
Hi, I'm Adrienne, and I am really curious about this topic. I think this is something that definitely runs in my family, but without a diagnosis, it seems like you're just like latching onto, like, you know, that it's trendy kind of, this topic is kind of like trending, you know?
It is quite in vogue now to be on the spectrum.
Absolutely. So just wanted to come and listen and learn, and really just soak up some knowledge.
Thank you so much for being here. Show of hands, who's seen Love on the Spectrum? That's so fun.
Great show.
All right.
I'm
Jess.
Jessica. I used to do yoga in the park with Jason, been to a few things at the yoga barn, so that's how I got here. This one jumped at me because I am on the autism spectrum and have, other people in my family with like ADHD and stuff like that, but were diagnosed much younger than me as a much older adult. I do have like pretty severe sensory issues, like with noise and stuff. So I just carry headphones. I keep my special earplugs with me, and that's just how I navigate the world. So this one jumped out at me, and I just working to educate myself too, so I can kind of educate people at my work and stuff, because that can be a hard environment to assimilate into.
Yeah,
So
I hear you. Well, glad you're here, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, buddy.
Hello, my name is Dizzy. My pronouns are they, them. And I think what brought me here today is I have ADHD and I'm also autistic. And this is, I don't know, this is basically my whole life. I've had plenty of time to think about it, but definitely coming into a newer understanding now about everything that it entails and how my past has affected how I've learned to mask or whatever now. So excited to talk about it, excited to hear other people's perspectives and feel a little less alone in the world, I think.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Amen.
I got to give Dizzy props too. I've been knowing him since last summer, and within this time, I've just seen a beautiful blossoming and transformation of you and your own soul, buddy.
So I heard we talking about something we have. I know I have ADHD. I think I've been diagnosed with PTSD. I also have anxiety. So I just want to see what kind of goes on here. So that's why I'm here today. Yeah.
What's your name?
Oh yeah, Ronell.
Thank you.
All right, Ronell.
Thank you, brother.
He's my good friend and neighbor.
And one of his worker elves.
Yeah. So, yes, buddy, who are you?
My name is Satek, and I've been friends with people on the spectrum my whole life. I grew up in the circus, and you learn not to judge freaks because everybody has a role to play, and they're often some of the most interesting people you'll find. And so I've been friends with people on the spectrum my whole life, but it wasn't until I was maybe mid-30s that one of my roommates said, "You're Aspie too." And I was like, "How do you know?" And she was like, "'Cause I can talk to you." And I saw her in social circumstances, and she wasn't very comfortable at all, but we always had really fun conversations. And so I listened to her and started looking into it, and I was like, oh yeah, like I've always been different my whole life, and that's why I appreciate other people that are different. And as I learned more about it, I started to sort of have trouble finding anybody that wasn't different. I had trouble finding anybody that was normal, you know? And so we'll talk about that some tonight as well, but thank you all for coming.
Happy to be here.
Great to have you. My name is Jason Kears. One of the founders of Big Love Yoga Barn and this space here. I'm very happy and appreciative to be here and feel blessed that I get to interact and chat with so many beautiful people, beautiful souls. And part of my reason for being here on this planet is to connect with people. And that's what we're doing right now. Thank you all so much. So Satek, let's go ahead and get it started. You're going to take the share chair. I'm going to open this door back up here because I think it's a little hot. We'll just get a little circulation in here.
Welcome everyone to Soul Sauce. This is a very special place for us. This is a sacred space for us, and it's a very simple format. It started by us all sitting in a circle with everyone wearing a blindfold and taking turns just sharing anything that felt real, anything that felt important, anything that felt true, vulnerably, together. We started it during the pandemic. And the importance of the blindfold is much deeper than you might expect. And this is our new format of it, and we do this format so that we can record this. It was very difficult to record a circle, but we still invite you to keep your eyes closed as much of the time as you can, because if you do, you will hear things differently. You will hear things deeper, and you will share things more honestly and more openly. You will feel less anxiety. You will feel the presence of this moment deeper. So that's a constant invitation, is to close your eyes. This right here is what we call the shared share, and each of you in turn will be invited to join us in the shared share. And when you do come to the shared share, you are expected to put on a blindfold, and we will just ask you simple, very fun, very interesting questions, typically about the topic, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. If you didn't know, the topic tonight is neurodivergence. And I am happy to start this evening off by explaining that a lot of people think of the spectrum, the autistic spectrum or neurodiversity, as a line. And that's not really how it works. It's really more of like the color wheel. It's like a circle. It's a color wheel, and everybody is a certain color. And not only is everybody a certain color on that spectrum, because that's what a spectrum is a range that includes everything. Not only is everybody a certain color, but everybody is in and towards the center and really bright and hot, or they're out to the edge and really kind of dark and shadowy. We all have a color, we all have a frequency, and we all have an intensity in that frequency range. And the idea of tonight is just to give us all a very safe, very open space to talk about how weird each of us are in our own experience. Tonight is an invitation to let your freak flag fly. It's always hard for me to say.
Say that real fast.
Freak flag fly. Freak flag fly. Freak flag fly. That's hard. That's hard. So that's the invitation, you know, and that's where most of the questions are going to start, is like, just tell us how weird you are. Tell us how different you are. And would love to hear how you see the world. It's like you just don't understand how everybody else doesn't see what you see. And then would love your weaknesses, would love your strengths, would love any specific stories about what helped you see that you were a little bit different than others, because so is everyone else, y'all. And I really want everyone here to just dig deep for a second and tell me if any one of you knows someone you would call fucking normal. Does any one of you know someone you think is neurotypical?
I do.
Tell me about them.
People I work with, I work in banking. I'm a project manager. I find that I work with seemingly very neurotypical people.
They wear ties and everything's perfect, and they sit in a desk and they do their work all fucking day like this. That doesn't sound spectrum as shit to you?
Well,
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
they don't seem to get overwhelmed. Like, they don't seem anxious. They
very
don't seem to get
very
overwhelmed.
good point. Very good point.
That's really what it is there not a lot rattles them. That's what if I had to say neurotypical,
Conformist.
maybe.
What was that?
Like a conforming.
Conformist. People that can blend in. That's called masking, dear. And all that is higher functional. That's all that is. It's higher functional spectrum.
Because after work, they go home and wear furry outfits.
and they're weird as shit at home, and they buy pictures of people's feet,
And you know, I mean, it's like I'm for real, y'all. I've never met a neurotypical person. It's an idea. It's a fantasy. Everybody is weird in their own way, and the more, and it's okay. And the more we can understand that, and the more we can share our weirdness, the more we can release these like feelings of like shame, these feelings of like, poor me. Why am I different? And like. We're all different, y'all, and we're all like struggling to figure out who we are, and we're all annoyed at this. We're all annoyed at this idea of having to pretend that we fit in, having to wear masks all day long. And one of the things that determines where you are on the spectrum is how much masking you can handle yourself. I don't have a high threshold for masking myself. So I've always avoided environments where I have to pretend to be someone other than I am, you know? And other people are able to do it at a much higher level, but those people are weird as shit too, and they're struggling too. And so I invite you all to just imagine this is a safe space to just share how weird you are, and imagine that if you share how weird you are, other people will appreciate it and they'll share more of their weirdness, and we'll all laugh a lot and have a lot of good conversations. Can we do that? Can y'all play that game tonight?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we do the shared share in different ways. We always let anybody that wants to volunteer first volunteer. If no one volunteers, then we just end up going around the circle one at a time. Do we have any volunteers tonight to go first in the shared share?
I feel like some people want to go.
Of course some people want to go.
But, you know, there's always that uncomfortable feeling. So
There's Dizzy.
Oh, go Dizzy. It's always scared to be the first one in anything. Like that's totally normal.
So, well, okay. And now we have Dizzy.
Dizzy, start out by telling us anything you feel the need to share about how you have understood that you're different in this life. Anything at all.
Okay. I heard your question. And I just want to, I feel like, get a little bit off my chest to make me feel more comfortable at sitting in this chair. Feeling lots of anxiety and a lot of heart racing. I seem to be afraid of saying the right thing, even though I know there's no right thing. Getting things wrong, being judged. I just want to let myself know that I am safe and I'm welcomed, and there is no right way to be, and just the way I am is just the way I'm supposed to be. Okay. I'll just go for it. I feel like, thank you. I feel, ever since I can remember, anyways, I feel like I've always felt different, like an outsider, like, I didn't belong in any scenario, even however I acted. I just felt like I was kind of an alien to the space. And I think where I want to start is I was a difficult child growing up. Well, you know, I guess according to normal people's standards or normal parents' standards, whatever. My mother was a single mother, and I think she herself is probably on the spectrum, probably also have ADHD, and she didn't know how to handle it either. But growing up, I've had meltdowns, I've had shutdowns, I've felt overwhelmed, I've talked too much, I don't know. I just felt like growing up, a lot of the traits that made me were too much for everybody. Or that me being myself was somehow disturbing everyone else's peace. So early on, my mother, she's gotten better, but she was definitely emotionally and physically abusive to me. And being an ADHD autistic child, I had a lot of problems, you know, things with unexpected changes in my routine. Things were too loud, textures didn't feel right on my body. You know, another one is that I tend to mask a lot, is echolalia, which is like the repetition of certain phrases or sounds you hear, usually directly after, but sometimes delayed. And that's one of them that I mask a lot.
What's that word?
Echolalia. There's different forms. I think echographia is like the copying of physical actions, and I do that too, but not as often. And a lot of the things that would go under stimming, which is like self-stimulatory behavior, stuff like rocking back and forth, flapping your hand, shaking your head. I mean, you name it. Even food or talking could be a form of like stimming, depending. But a lot of that stuff that I feel like is an integral part of me. Early on, my mom would punish me or make me feel like those things were bad, and that me just expressing myself and being a child and getting emotional or whatever it may be, maybe it was a little more difficult than the average child, but all that was, I felt like, kind of shut down. So I learned from an early age that I had to mask a lot of my behaviors, because I know I don't need to apologize, but I was catching my breath.
Keep breathing, man.
Yep. And it's okay if it gets emotional. It's no problem.
Box of Kleenex back here.
Mhm.
Don't worry about it.
Just trying to recenter. A lot of side quest, which is a very common thing on with ADHD, but a lot of people have heard the term nonverbal or non-speaking, but there's also another extreme to that, which is hyperverbal, which may not seem like it, but could also be just as ineffective of not being able to speak, because and I feel like that strongly has affected me, and I'm still trying to learn how to be authentically myself, and that my words come way too fast, but also I know it's a lot for other people, so it's a weird balance to try to figure out. And it's a lot of times when I feel like I can't stim or be myself around a space with neurotypical people, and I do believe 100% there are neurotypical people, but I'm not going to go into that. But talking is like one of my only ways to get that kind of built up energy that comes from my clothes feeling uncomfortable, or there are too many sounds polluting the area, too many things visually, just a lot going on, and not feeling like I can soothe myself in any way. So talking is, I think, become one of those ways of getting some of that out, but a lot of times I'm not as mindful about it, because it's almost like an anxiety, boiling blood response that I'm like, I have to get it out. But anyways, back. I digress. But yeah, a lot of things that were regulatory for me to calm my nervous system down. Early on were shut down by my mother. She used to use this word. She only speaks Spanish, but and it's mañas, which I'm not exactly sure what the translation is, but for me it always was like bad habits that you just do to be annoying or whatever, something along those lines of like malice. And earlier on I was taught that a lot of those things that I do are not normal or bad, or too loud for her, or she just couldn't handle it. And I learned to make myself small as possible, to try to fit in to what I think other people wanted me to be. So that was my first, I feel like, experience of like shutting down those things. And in school, I was still the ADHD autistic kid, even if I was suppressing it 100%. So early on, especially when I was still learning how to mask, even like subconsciously, a lot of it slipped through the cracks. I noticed other kids didn't like being around me. I thought I was too much. I thought it was weird. Just like a disruptive little kid that just, I don't know, wasn't making stuff up or couldn't get their act together. And so this further reinforced the idea that I had to make myself exactly like everyone else. And especially during school, I think my mother also helped with this, but I felt like I had to learn how to read people in a sense that didn't come as intuitively as to other people. You know, learning to read their body language, facial expressions, their tone, and all this stuff didn't come easy for me, but I felt like I almost became hyper fixated on it, and as a safety response to protect myself, I would hyper fixate on everything about other people, because I wanted to understand what it was like to be a normal person or like everyone else, and just fit in. And I don't know, but
I got a question whenever you're ready, but don't let me interrupt.
okay. Oh, hold this finger here, and this is my Sawtech finger, okay? So I will come back to this when I feel ready. It's honestly very helpful to remember stuff, especially when you have ADHD, and I feel like thousands of thoughts are coming from different directions, and you want to be respectful and not interrupt, but you feel like the thoughts fleeing from your brain. I think it's very helpful to name a finger and be like, this is my Sawtech finger, because whenever I go back, I'm like, why am I putting my finger like this? I'll be able to remember, and I can more actively engage in the conversation instead of trying to chase this thought that I want so desperately to be said out loud. But you know what? I forgot what I was going to say about the other thing, so I'll take your question now.
Okay, perfect. that was beautiful, bro. Thank you. Love it. That was beautiful. And I love the exposition. Thank you. I really feel what you went through, and like it's hard enough to go through life being different, but to be judged for that difference as well as a whole nother level. And I feel that lifetime of judgment and trying to fit in the nervousness of your voice. But I wonder if you can tell us about what happens once you just let yourself get to talking, because once you start talking, I don't hear any more nervousness in your voice. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Like once you get to going, I don't feel any fear, I don't feel any nervous, I don't feel any self-judgment. I feel everything that you say very clearly. Can you
like speak to that, the difference between the nervousness and then the confidence of just sharing?
That's a good question. Well, I feel like, this is, starting's always the hardest.
Yes.
So, and this can go into another thing that I might, but I feel I just keep reminding myself in my brain and in my body throughout while I'm speaking that it's okay, that I don't have to mess, that I won't mess up, or that I won't say anything wrong, and I don't know, trying to send compassion to my heart. I felt like a lot of times when I do get going, at some point I notice that my body's starting to contract again and be nervous. So every time I take a breath, I just been trying to recenter that. But I feel, and this is something new I've learned, you know, I have a lot of judgment for myself, because trying to be perfect and trying to be someone else, you have to overanalyze and judge every single aspect of your behavior, because you might get it wrong, or people might find out you're different, or whatever. So I noticed a lot of that is very, almost like I use a metaphor, like a drill sergeant, or maybe one of those words, as a drill sergeant, and I'm trying to force a circle peg into a square hole, and that's, I feel like, a lot of the times how my brain operates, because it's in a fight or flight. I'm scared of people, I'm scared of being that I have to overanalyze, script this, do the whatever, and like do it fast because I don't have time. There's too much, and I've been trying to switch that talk of being so judgmental, because it's in everything. Even when I'm alone, I feel like I'm masking, because I don't know, it's just so ingrained in my body and my trauma that I have to be someone else. That I'm very judgmental about everything. I'm like, oh, why would you do that? Why do this? I'm just trying to pick apart everything to find something wrong with me. But I feel I've been trying to invite that drill sergeant in, because I know behind them is just a scared child who wants to be accepted.
Thank you.
And trying to be that, the other side of the coin, being the cheerleader in that, and letting myself know it's okay to mess up. So it's okay to be perceived. It's okay. People can think whatever they want. It's not a perception of me. It's a perception of their own kind of thing that they've got going on. If they judge me, that's maybe something they have to work on. It's not something I have to put on my shoulders. But yeah, trying to be a cheerleader to myself. So a lot of my practice in mindfulness and meditation, I feel like it's helped me be more succinct and less nervous or rambly, I guess. I'm a big rambler. That's my name.
It's part of that hyperverbal.
Yes.
Totally.
It's just, it's like a motor. I feel like it's not going. I can't do anything with that energy except for keep talking. And a lot of the times it'll be during situations where I feel like I have to mask. I didn't realize I was masking for so many years until more semi-recently, when I started taking my autism and more seriously, or being more mindful of it anyways, and not trying to push it away, because I felt, I don't know, I didn't want to just have another thing wrong with me, or you know, autism is one of those things that doesn't go away. I mean, you can learn to get better with it, and cope better and manage your needs and stuff better, but it's for your whole life, you know? So I was very much in denial about it for a long time. And I'm still working through some of that. But
is there things that you can share with us that you've benefited from learning about the patterns of spectrum, neurodiversity? Like, I always tell people it's not about the diagnosis, it's really about seeing the patterns and how seeing the patterns helps you. Is there anything that you've learned about yourself from the patterns that's helped you?
Okay. So thank you for your question. I want to definitely, I feel like knowledge is power. I don't know, maybe it's a autistic thing to say, but everyone should believe that. But for me, not knowing, it makes me scared. So for my whole life, I've been in and out of mental hospitals, behavioral places. Like, a lot of my teenagehood and most of, I feel like, a really important developmental years for me were spent not in a normal environment like this with people.
This is normal?
Well,
Jesus, you invited me.
It's not like being locked up 24 hours a day, being routinely this time you eat, this time you take medication. It's very, if I want to hang out with people, I can. Then I didn't have a choice. It was, it was my life. But part of that as well is that I honestly enjoyed it. One of the common symptoms of autism, a lot of people who are autistic like routine, don't like changes, don't like anything unexpected. And so I was living in like heaven. I mean, it definitely had its bad sides, don't get me wrong. But for me, just knowing the next day would be exactly the same was so comforting to me, because I didn't have to be afraid of things. I didn't know knowing how to react like a person in like any scenario. It was safe. I don't know. And even when I got out of it, and as a kid, I would eat the same meals every day, go to the gym at the same time, have the exact routine schedule, because in my body that kept me safe. That made me be able to handle my stress more. And a lot of times when I feel like something unexpected happens, or I having to mask for so long, I've become almost self-destructive in that routine. And then I'm like, oh, well, if this happened, it's like the world's ending in my body, and I'm like, I've got to just throw everything away. And one of my big ways to deal with being overstimulated is binge eating. I've had a problem with food for a long time. And growing up autistic, it wasn't any easier. Textures, smells, this, that. I felt for my mother. She always just thought I was a picky child. And that I should just be able to eat this, or should just this, or not complain about this, or the temperature on this is too hot, this is too cold, I don't want to eat it like that, or it's not right, whatever. All those things. I feel like my mother drilled into me to not listen to. I forgot my finger, but I got another one. I felt like I learned early on to ignore those things, and I had no choice in what my needs were. I felt like since I was spending so much time repressing myself and not listening to myself, and trying to be like everyone else, and imagining there's a certain guideline and that it has to be the same every time, I ended up like disregarding my body and my needs. I learned, everyone always feels uncomfortable all the time. Like, that's normal, or no, you need to do, whatever. I learned to quiet the voice of my body, and in turn my thoughts just got louder. And I felt like a lot of times I assume in my body what's going on when I have no actual idea what's going on in my body, because it was how I had to learn to mask is ignore all those feelings of overstimulation or irritatedness or whatever. Those are bad. Those those things make you misbehave or not be a good person, and I can't do anything to soothe them. So I learned to just ignore, and I feel like, and with that becoming a people pleaser, I felt like I just was never listening to myself, and I don't know where my boundaries are. I don't know what's too much for me until it's already too late and I'm already over the waterfall. I honestly don't know where I was going with that, but
It's beautiful.
I learned, yes.
I've got a question, Dizzy. So I know we all know that, okay, you've been in I guess you would call institutions or and more than likely other therapy, and now you're learning about Buddhism and meditation and yoga, and you can be very articulate about where you're at right now and sharing that with people. From all of your experiences, what would you say is some good advice you can give to other people on the spectrum that don't quite have the same awareness as you're at now?
Good question.
Thank you for the question. I'll start with I guess with what's worked for me. I feel like you said, autism's a spectrum. Some people struggle with some things more than others, in different areas. Like you said, the color wheel of back and forth. And it's very spread out. So what works for me might not work for someone else. I don't really like giving advice. It might not sound like that, but because I feel like a lot of the times, for me anyways, when I am getting advice, getting advice, I feel like there's this underlying, you don't know how to figure out yourself. You don't know. I know what's right for you. Let me give you the answer and whatever, like not trusting in the other person, that they're on their own journey, they're doing what they need, and that they'll figure it out, but what I think has been helpful for me,
obviously breathing.
Breathing, yes. Yeah. Checking in with myself.
Do you need an extra finger? Just asking for
I think what really changed my life, and how I navigated having autism and ADHD, was I was in dialectical behavioral therapy. It's a 6-month program. There's a bunch of different modules, but one of the big core running themes is around mindfulness, and being mindful of what's going on in either your environment, your head, whatever, mindful of something. It could be mindful walking, meditating, eating. The possibilities are endless. But I think in practicing mindfulness and things like opposite action, which is doing the opposite of what your normal tendency is or habit, and just trying that, it's this whole thing. But it was one day I was doing that and I just realized how stuck I felt. My world was so small. I'd go on the same places, I'd walk the same place every time, I'd eat the same meal at the same restaurant every time. I was just like stuck in this like place where I felt like I had no power, or no ability to decide what's good for me in the present moment, because you know, those things maybe kept me okay before when I really needed them. But in the present moment, maybe it's not what I need, but I've had this like rule book of this is how it's supposed to be dealt with. So I remember going on a walk, and this is, I promise it gets back to your question. And I just decided I'm gonna go a different way than I usually do. And I know that doesn't sound like a big thing for maybe neurotypical people, but for me, I don't know, it felt like the end of the world. Like, you know, I couldn't do something different. I couldn't experience that. I didn't have enough knowledge. I didn't know what was going on. Like, I don't know, it feels catastrophic in my body. Even now to think about, change is one of the harder things for me. And I know everyone, but when you're, you know, sometimes the only way to ground yourself is routine. It's so much harder to change. But I ended up going a different way. And I don't know, that moment I feel like woke me up. And I don't know, I was being more mindful of how I felt with going the different way and not trying to judge it. You know, I feel like it's so easy when you're making a change to be like, this is bad, I don't like this, I don't like that. And when you're autistic and you're experiencing everything or what feels like everything, you can tell yourself a lot of stories about that, like, you know, long cutting sound, or the sound of someone eating or tapping their feet, you know, like, it's all a lot. And you can make yourself in this dark cloud, but I tried to go at it in a way that was more compassionate and exploratory. I don't know, I felt like I wasn't, until then I didn't know what it felt like to be a kid, and make my own choices and explore and feel like I could mess up, or I could do things differently than other people, and that it didn't have to look the same. And I was able to experience the wind, experience the sounds, experiencing the temperature outside in a way that before I felt like I couldn't. A lot of times, sensory stuff, and I'm trying to learn to welcome this, but
yes,
is feels like an attack on my body, on my being, especially sounds one of my big ones, because it feels like you can't just turn off the background noise like other people talk about doing. They can just be in one conversation instead of hearing 12 different conversations, and the TV going and the music going and this and that. I have treated like it was an attack on me, like I was separate from it, and for sound specifically, I felt like I was apart from it, but I was realizing that I was a part of that, you know? Like, the sound wasn't gonna go away. Just, I guess, how I reacted to it, or how I let it color my world. It's definitely not been easy, but been able to recognize that it's not the world attacking me, and that maybe I just needed to show myself more compassion, or take time to regulate myself, or this and that. And I feel like just that kind of mindfulness has given me a way to look at soothing myself in a way that's compassionate and non-judging, and I don't know, make me feel okay with feeling different, or feeling too overstimulated when no one else did, or talking too much, or feeling weird doing this or doing that. I don't know, I've got lists, you know. And feeling more okay with how my body feels in those times that I feel like an outcast and this and that, because a lot of the times our reaction is immediately, this feels bad, I gotta do something. Consumption is one of my big ones of eating, scrolling, doing this, of like trying to run away, and not really feeling the emotion, and not letting it, I don't know, heal, you know, like, and just ignoring it and putting it on the back bender and neglecting it, just like my mother did to me, you know, like, and I don't want to be that person that beats myself up or neglects my experience.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, brother.
Good job.
Thank you. Does anybody out here have a question for him?
Thank you. I was a little...
Dizzy, are you okay with some audience question?
Anybody?
Yeah. Jessica has one.
Okay.
Jessica, so what does like today look like, you know, for you, like your, you know, like your day to day, and you know, just kind of navigating things. If you're comfortable with that, you don't have to share if you don't.
First of all, thank you for your question. That was a great question. And a lot of times I do better with questions. So maybe we have to try to be more mindful of that. But yeah, honestly, it's still really hard. I feel like only in the past year, I've been able to almost like pick apart those parts that I was hiding from, or didn't feel like they deserved to be seen. So a lot of mindfulness as well has brought me almost aware of how much I felt like I was torturing my body, and being social, being in high, like loud sound areas, not feeling like I can move or stem or rocking back and forth. I feel like it's almost, in a sense, made me more seemingly more dysfunctional and trying to navigate that, because I'm more aware of it and I'm allowing it to be there. And it's been rather hard. I haven't been able to work. I worked at a Quick Trip, which is honestly the autistic person's worst nightmare. If you're autistic, please do not work at Quick Trip. It's tear your soul apart.
Right?
Well, I was really good at masking. That's all I gotta say. And I found ways to cope where no one could see them. And I feel like that kind of led me. I did 3 years of that, of suffering and being harmful to my body. And I feel, until I started ADHD medication, I didn't even know I had ADHD, even though I was diagnosed a long time ago, until more recently when I was like, hey, can I pull up my papers? I want to know what you guys are thinking now, you know? And I was like, this is on there? Like, why did no one decide to tell me? That would be very helpful. Even though, you know, I had a feeling. But I put myself into a state of burnout. I feel like I'm still in this burnout, and I've been trying to let myself rest, and not do everything I think I'm supposed to do, or this or that, and not judging myself for being lazy or unproductive, but and trying to recover. But it's honestly really hard. It's been really difficult for me to try to realize my body has limits. Sometimes the line is, let's say there's a cliff, the cliff's here, and someone can stand this close to the cliff and be fine. You know, they're not going to be afraid. They feel comfortable there. Some people, they might even feel more comfortable closer to the edge, but realizing that my line is a lot further back than I realized, and trying to meet myself there for every time that I shut down, melt down, experience, binge eat, do whatever things to cope with being me.
Do Do you have any hobbies or things that that you are like your things? I have special interests, so I'm curious if you have any special interests.
Thank you for the question. See, this is what I'm talking about. You get me started about a special interest or hyperfixation, I know exactly what I'm gonna say.
Oh, I'm curious now.
Honestly, I feel like only recently. I mean, I've had it in definitely other ways that were maybe more subtle in the past. But now that I've been trying to listen to my body and figure out who I am and what I like and not what I think someone should like, like me should like, or, you know, everything else I have explored lots. One of mine is crochet. I love crocheting. It helps me be in my body, my hands. I feel like a lot of times I struggle with coordination, lots of balanced hand movement, and it's all part of the autism, honestly. And I'm not just saying that, that's like one of the things. But I don't know. But anyways, it helps me accept where I am at in my coordination and this and that. I spend so much time crocheting. I haven't done it in a while and I really want to. I think it was more like a hyperfixation for a lot of the time. It was what I did day in and day out whenever I had free time or I fit it in.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
So you're saying
hyperfixation?
Yeah, versus perhaps it was bringing you comfort. So perhaps that's another way to look at it, was bringing you peace and comfort.
Oh yeah. Well, for me, the word, if I'm understanding this correctly, I can't see you. I don't know how what your body is doing, and but from my understanding, when I say hyperfixation, I don't see it as a negative thing. It's something that brings me lots of joy, and a lot of power to be with it. You know, like it gives me something. Joy. Yeah, it makes me feel
a focus.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with me, or there's nothing different, or this or that. So I feel like overjoyed talking about my hyperfixation special interest. I don't know if the word has more of a negative connotation, but it's like that joy, compassion. But anyways,
no, that's good. It's
yes,
just good to put another spin on it and say what it is actually bringing. Like some people, for me, for instance, is gardening. I love gardening.
Gardening's a good one.
Despite the fact that, I'm older now and it's a little bit more pressure for me. But the abundance of joy that I get from planting, and then it brings me that joy 6 to 8 months later. It blossoms and it blooms, and I can put them in my vase. That is something that brings me pure joy. And that is something that is very important in your life. To find joy.
Yes.
Bring joy back in.
Thank you.
But hyperfocus itself is very important for ADHD and for autistic because there is a comfort in the simplicity of being completely present in something. And so both ADHD and autistic people tend to love hyper-focusing, but they can't fabricate it. It has to be authentic.
Yeah, that's
genuinely be interested.
Dizzy, I want to give you big props for sitting in the shared chair.
Amen. So proud of you, dude.
Good job, brother.
Yes, thank you.
Please go. You can go bounce on the ball now.
I thought that was my turn.
Thank you, brother.
So
you next?
Yes.
Geez, I'm kind of being pushed into it, and you know what? Being pushed into doing something that I'm not comfortable with has been the story of my life.
Tell us your name.
Dizzy, you did great, by the way. Brilliant. Excellent work.
Tell us your name and anything you can about feeling different in your life.
All right, so my name is Sarah. My last name's changing because I'm going through a divorce right now, so I'm bringing my last name back, which is Whitehead. And Whitehead, it's a name in Ireland that is there for a reason, according to my family. Whitehead was a honorable name. Let's see, so I've never been put in the hot seat before, and I'm not feeling like it's the hot seat per se. but I've never had the luxury of being able to speak to complete strangers, for the most part, about something that is feels so vulnerable and so, I'm 56 years of age and, gone through a lot of childhood trauma and that I'm still dealing with, even at this age, which is remarkable because most people think, oh, Sarah, get over it, which would be my family. Get over it. Get over it. And a lot of the things I just couldn't get over with, a lot of the... So let me rewind just a little tad here. I came from a Protestant family in Ireland, which was a rare commodity. It was a difficult time in that sense as far as religions were concerned, because you couldn't date a Catholic and a Catholic couldn't date a Protestant, and if you did, you were banished. And it was a very tough kind of upbringing in that respect as far as dating concerned. But let's rewind a little bit further as far as childhood trauma that nobody seems to concept, or they just didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to know, or they did know and they just picked up that giant rug and just kicked it in there and said, you know what, we're not going to deal with it. Get over it. Get over it. And so I was the baby of 6 in my biological family called mother and father. And then I was shipped off to an orphanage with my brother that was next up to me, because my parents were getting a divorce, which was just not apropos back then. If I'm sure you all know what that means. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the norm, it wasn't allowed, and it was definitely frowned upon. So my dad was in the Navy, and my mother apparently was a whore, according to my father. My father's 93 and he still continues to call my dead mother a whore, which is lovely. So I refused to meet with him, and I refused to go to his funeral when he does die. And we've had this conversation in 2019 when I told him, I said, I'm not going to spend $6,000 to watch your sorry ass in a hole. I said, you were absent in my life, and I'm not going to waste that money. And I'm just being perfectly honest with you. That was kind of sounds very cold. But as I proceed with my story and you understand where that coldness comes from and that blatant fuck you, comes from, you will probably agree with me. So my brother and I were shipped off to an orphanage. My other 2 sisters were shipped off somewhere else. My other brother and sister were just basically left to their own devices, which back in the 60s and 70s was extremely hard, especially in Ireland, very poor country. And as anyone who knows anyone about the Catholic Church and all the troubles in Ireland, is there was a lot of wrongdoing. I'll be blunt. A lot of bad stuff happened with priests. Molestations, raping, so on and so forth and so forth. And so for me, thankfully, it wasn't part of the church, but it was my dad's best friend. And so my dad's best friend molested me from the age of 5 till about 8. And at the time I couldn't tell anybody, because it wasn't like, hey, let's sit down, how was your weekend? Mm-hmm. What happened? Did you have a good weekend? It was never a discussion. What happened was, like, when I was younger, like, I was put in the home at about 3 to 4 years of age. And so my father, when he would come out and have his time off, we would be able to go home to what I would consider home at the time. And as life proceeded, he would do the typical Irish man thing, or perhaps it's just the typical Irish, they went to the pub, right? And really neglected his children, there was barely any food on the table. And so you would go off to a friend's house, and his friends, our childhood friends, my brother's friends, were the same friends of the father who was not only molesting his own children, but also molesting me. And it was almost to the point where it was like, if you came in the back door, you knew you didn't have to bump into him, and everything was going to be okay. But when you're that young, you don't really know what's right or wrong. You don't know what's happening to you. You can't compress what he's doing is even wrong, if that makes sense. He's picking me up, he's sitting me on his lap, and he's doing things to me that I can't even comprehend is right or wrong at that time. Okay? So
did you think it was normal?
I didn't know what, I mean, I'm a young kid, I'm just a toddler. So it's hard for my brain to even comprehend if what he was doing to me. I know it felt wrong, but his wife was sitting there in the chair, and you know, he's got me on his lap, and maybe it's all very sneaky and very, 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 you know, whatever. I know that I didn't feel comfortable with it. So that was that. And so moving on, my dad was a very violent man, very typical dad, comes home drunk, starts smacking the shit out of you for no apparent reason. But it was exhausting. So I'm now living in this children's home where I became the child of a child of 5 other siblings, to not knowing where the hell they are, except for my brother, to now 22 other siblings, per se, because we're all living in the same house. And it was a children's home. It was called an orphanage, and then they, you know, as the time went by, they changed it into a children's home to make it more softer. However, and I know I'm kind of jumping a lot here, because I want to get to the point. So I'm kind of just going to tell you where the damage really began. And the damage began with this bastard sexually molesting me, and just continuing to do that, and to the point where, you know, even when you're in this children's home, I had 2 women that were in charge of 23 children, boys and girls, all separate floors, but very connected. Nothing really happened bad there, if that makes sense. Okay? We came, we ate, we went to school, we had meals, it was fine. We did have a couple of kids that did not make it, in that sense that, you know, 2 of them killed themselves. One was, he hung himself in the bathroom, and another kid drowned himself, or he was found drowned in the bathtub. And he was a young fella. He was just 11 years of age, and Francis, I think, it was just horrible. But nobody ever talked about it, you know, and that's the world. Like, you understand, I'm 56, so we're talking about the 60s and 70s, where everything's just about big giant bloody rug, okay, that just, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. They'll get over it. Yeah, don't mind them, you know. But we didn't get over it. We did have those feelings, and they were completely and ultimately ignored. And there was never any comforting, there was never any guidance, there was never any communication, there was never any kind of, you know, did you hear what happened to Francis? It was like, oh God, no, we don't know, we can't talk about that. So it kind of sucked, because you were kind of left in the dark for so long, not knowing what the hell was going on, even in my own biological family. Like, I didn't know, for instance, that my sister who was left to her, my older brother and sister, the oldest 2, who were left on their own devices, was now pregnant, okay, at 14, okay, which was diabolical, but not unusual in a Catholic country, just so we're saying, you know, for women to get pregnant. Certainly 14 was a little, messed up.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
for just
for
a
sure,
second?
please. I'm just exhausted myself out.
Fascinating story,
Mm.
and I really appreciate the depths of the vulnerability in it.
Mm.
But everything you've told us so
Mm.
far is external to you. It's what happened to you. It's what
Mhm.
other people did.
Mhm.
And I would really love to hear something about how you processed it. How did you deal with this pain? How were you different from those around you? Like, can you share something personal with us about it?
Well, I think that in elementary school, for me, in the sense of just being, I was broken, and that brokenness continued until I came to the United States, in the sense that I didn't have anyone to express myself to ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I drank my fucking skull off, to be honest with you. That was my coping mechanism. And then I became, instead of dwelling on it, made mockery of it and joking about it. And that was my coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, in case you hadn't noticed, I walk through your door and the first thing I'm doing is I'm busting everybody's balls. I'm trying to make everybody comfortable, handing out candy, just being and doing what I think is making everybody very comfortable very fast. All right, and I feel that way because I feel like I was invited to this place and to this gathering to be myself and not be judged. And that's brilliant. Okay, there's nothing like it. So yeah, drinking. I couldn't do drugs, like pot and stuff like that. My sisters did. They did everything. Mushrooms were growing beautifully in Ireland, right up the road from us, and they did magic mushrooms. And yeah, I wish I could have. I honestly wish I could have. However, my apparent mental state of my DNA with my family is paranoid schizophrenia. So we have, when I said to you earlier that we have the alphabet soup in my DNA, and alphabet soup isn't even beginning. So these paranoid schizophrenia, thank God I don't have it. And I say that yet because paranoid schizophrenia can hit you at a different time, at any given time. Mm-hmm. It is a disease. It is a mental disease. So my mother had it, my sister has it, my older sister has it, her kids have it. And then my nephew has Down syndrome, autism, paranoid schizophrenia. Like you talk about the bucket list, he's got it, and it breaks my heart that this child has all of that combined package, right? And that's sad, right? But that's their sad. Like, I can't keep carrying everybody's sad with me because I've never really dealt with my own sad. Really, I've just drowned it. I drowned it with alcohol. I drowned it with being obnoxious. I drowned it with being just trying to kind of blend in. So I definitely had yeah, and I get what you're saying. Like, don't pour all your problems out to me. We're not Jerry Springer. Like, I get that, okay?
That's
right?
not what I was saying.
No,
That's
but I get
not what
that,
I was
right?
saying.
You are not the father. No, I'm just kidding.
But there's something really important I just heard you say, and I would love to speak to that if I can. You said very clearly that you've never faced the pain inside of yourself.
No.
And I would love to know what you feel like that would look like. What do you think would happen if you did face the pain?
The problem with facing the pain in reality of the drunkenness and crying and finding yourself in a dark hole a lot of the time is that people are like, why is she drinking so much? Like, what's her problem? Like, is she an alcoholic? Blah, 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 blah. Well, anyone who's from Ireland is an alcoholic. That's just right off the bat, apparently.
Generational trauma.
It is. So I think that for me, it was again, this big giant rug that everybody's shoving under, and you're kind of lost because you can't really explain to anybody else. Because, again, it wasn't just me, all right? We're in Ireland, in a country where priests were molesting, friends were molesting, molestation and rape was a national bloody pastime, and nobody spoke about it. We didn't have doctors, we didn't have psychiatrists, not that they weren't there, it was just that it was frowned upon. You know, that, oh my God, did you know that, you know, Sarah's seeing a psychologist now? Yeah. Oh yeah, well, we all knew she was fucked up. Well, yeah, I mean,
because everybody's
you
fucked
know
up.
We're all fucked up, exactly. I mean, there's no, you know, put a label on it, you know. And so how you handle your fucked upness and how you handle the pressure of that pain and continuing to just push it down and not explain or try to fix or try to resolve any of those inner demons, which is really what they are, is not something that came naturally. Certainly not in Ireland. Okay, it was just a no-go. And so, you know, when I came to the United States at 19 years of age, I'm now meeting the mother that abandoned me. And I use that word only because that's what my brothers and sisters said. I didn't give a shite. I was 3 years of age. I didn't know whether she was here or gone. All I knew was that she did not show up anymore. So it wasn't like that abandonment word was not something that I came up with. It was something my older siblings said. And so I went along with it. And so finding out that I don't fit in and I don't blend with others in a mental form or state definitely hit me in high school in Ireland, because you know, I'm dating now, right? But anyone who thinks, oh, Sarah's in a children's home, there must be something wrong with her. You know, that's not normal. That's not right. That's not normal. So I was perceived continuously as not being normal. And I didn't know what that meant. Like, why am I not fucking normal? And excuse my language, right? But why am I not normal? Like, what makes me not normal? And then I'm like, well, what the fuck is normal? you know, like, so everyone has a different aspect on that and a different theory, and they're just going to come in with their own narrative of what their proceeding or process is. And, you know, learning and listening and finding out and delving deeper into why do you drink so much? Why are you to the point where you are? Why do you fall in love with people that are alcoholics? Why do you find somebody that is that pattern, okay, of what you've had to that extent? And then trying to navigate, why am I sitting in the shower bawling my eyes out with a razor in my hand? Okay?
Sarah.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
I do.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I take one from Desi?
Yeah. you have a very good recall.
Yeah.
Of a lot of the circumstances of your childhood. You have a lot of awareness of your background. A lot of people even just like completely forget about all that stuff, and it's all gone, and it's just buried way down deep subconsciously, but it's in the forefront of your consciousness now. What would it look like for you to take what is the first step for you in order to start addressing these already known traumas in your life?
The pain.
I think that, you know, it's undealt with. To be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, we know.
Which is obvious, right?
So okay, I love you. That's great. Like, she's like, I'm not pretending.
But I get your point. But handling it and dealing with it, and then and then just dealing with an extremely I guess when you say, okay, I can express myself and I can tell you my big sob story, and yes, I'm the martyr and life sucks and blah 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 blah. Sometimes when you're sitting, because this is my first time sitting up here, I should say, I'm not really sure what you're expecting for me to vomit out to you.
Well, there's no expectation.
So with that being said, obviously having some feedback, and definitely Desi, you know, there was nobody tested you for anything in Ireland. There was no, oh, you know, she's sitting there and she's going like this, or, you know, she's very quiet, or she's very angry, or, you know, they just didn't pay attention to it. You know, they really didn't. My thing was I was very angry. I was very angry.
Thank you.
Very angry. And so out of that anger came the drinking, and which was my coping mechanism. And I never really took the time out to say, Sarah, you're in America now. You know, you're 19 years of age. When I came here, I said, you probably go to a therapist and not tell anybody. Like, they don't even need to know. But it was because it was so frowned upon. It didn't allow me to have that freedom to say, yeah, do it. Fucking do it, girl. You know, like, you need fucking help. Like, we all need some form of help. We all are going to go through the ramifications of normality, which is anxiety, which is depression, which is the norm, okay, for most people, until it isn't.
Would you feel shame in yourself if you pursued that help?
I tried to pursue the help 2 years ago, and then I decided I was divorcing. So it's like something else more important came instead of what was really more important for me. Like, I've gone through marriage counseling, and I've gone through crap like that, which was absolutely useless unless you have somebody else that wants to work with that process with you. And so then when you go to when I went to get counseling, knowing I'm getting divorced, I'm going to talk to a counselor about this, and I couldn't. It was just too much. My glass was already this full with dealing with a divorce and 2 children,
right,
and dealing with all of their problems. Like I said, I've got the spaghetti soup at my house. So you know, when you're living with somebody and you're in love with somebody that has ADHD and you don't know, okay, what even ADHD means, or what ADD means, or what, and dyslexia for sure, OCD, and all of this alphabet soup that you really have to study, and you have to, you know, when you have these children and a husband, I'm so busy taking care of everybody else and trying to figure out how to not offend them, or how to comfort them, or how not to say this, or how not to have the desire to knock the fucking shit out of each and every one of them, okay? Because I'm so pissed off and angry that everybody has put all of this on me, when in actual fact, I've put all of this on me. Okay?
All right.
Okay? But I haven't taken responsibility for that.
Thank you.
Okay? And that's truthful. Okay?
I feel that.
So when you're there and you're caught up in a rat trap, you're caught up going, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. My husband says this, my daughter's acting this way, she's frazzled. So it's like I'm doing this balancing act. I've got so many balls, and I'm taking off so many hats, and I'm trying, and I can't. And that's the wrong word, actually. It's not that I can't. I didn't, or I won't take the time out to say, you know what, lads, listen, you're 18 or you're 13 or you're this and you're going to a psychologist or you're going to a psychiatrist and you're a man and you're not going to fucking listen anyway. So, you know, and just being perfectly honest, you know, it is, you know, man thing, right? But I didn't still, even at that time, say, you know, Sarah, you know, you've got problems and you're handling all of this and the stress on it is going to kill you. It's going to kill you. And I decided that instead of it killing me, instead of the stress killing me, that I felt like I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't handling everything, that I didn't have everything in order with my family. That I had messed up. And I probably thought about killing myself a lot. Because I thought they would all be better off.
I'm
But
sorry.
But I know that despite all of the challenges, and there's gonna be challenges. This is life. You know, we can't say, you know, we're all gonna sit there and have a pity party because, you know, this is life. Life is to go back to the one therapist that I did get to speak with for 6 months. She said to me, and this is why it was important for me to bring up that word joy, okay, is that I completely lost joy as a toddler. There was no joy. And I need to bring joy back. So I brought that bitch back with sarcasm, and I brought her back with being funny and helpful and helping the community and giving back. And that's what makes me happy. And that's all very well. Sarah's finding joy. Sarah's finding things that make her happy. But deep down inside, okay, I have a family on the other side who are constantly telling me, and which is, again, I don't really talk to my family. And a lot of you could probably relate to that. I loved when I think it was a comedian, obviously I love my comedians. He said, you know, my family is like an appendix. It starts acting up. You rip that fucker out. Okay? and I did. I literally just said, you know, these people that assume to be my family and apparently love me absolutely don't give a fuck about me and don't know or accept or want to even hear any of the kind of troubles or pressures or sadness or attempts to kill myself. They see that as, oh, look at Sarah. Oh, she's just feeling sorry for herself. She's just doing that to get attention. I'm doing that to get attention. Well, I thought my tits did that coming in. Hello. But that's the comedian in Sarah. You know, I'm always like, okay, like I'm going to look at things as the bright side. I don't often look at things in the dark side, but when the dark side gets really, really fucking dark, I'm dead. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm dead. And I'm no good to my family dead. My kids.
Sarah, Jillica has a question for you.
Hello.
I have 3 questions actually.
Okay.
Have you ever forgiven 1, your molester, 2, your father, and 3, your mother?
I have. My dad's still alive. And then my molester is still fucking alive. Sorry. You'll have to forgive me, but I don't forgive him. When I was in Ireland in 2019, I passed his house and I talked to the neighbor and I asked him if he was still alive, and she said yes, and I wanted to immediately go in and fucking choke him out. You know, I did, because he had caused so much harm. He was one of many, just so we're clear. Okay? He was the starter. He was the starter of a pain that will seem to me to never go away, because it got worse. It got worse in the sense that being sexually abused was a national pastime for kids in Ireland, both boys and girls. So I don't forgive my molesters nor my rapists. I do forgive my father, but I don't forget that he did not pay attention to why is Sarah upstairs crying? Why is she always crying? What's wrong with her? What the hell is wrong with her? You know, I'll give you something to fucking cry about. You know? Well, that's something to cry about.
That was my mom. Yep.
Fuck that shit. I didn't, my mother is dead 10 years. I definitely have forgiven her because I think that she probably had to leave 6 children behind. And anyone who has children knows that you would give your life for them. I know I have children, and there's no way I would ever leave them. I would never just get up and just say, I'm out. Okay? That's something dramatic has happened to that person, okay, for them to make that choice.
Yeah.
Something really fucked up and bad has happened for them to make that decision. And when I look back on it, you know, even at 19, like when I came to America, I'd already like understood, like, God, what happened? Like nobody even told us. Again, that big giant carpet. And so you're stuck in that where it's like, all right, now at 26 I'm a mom and I have the sweetest little girl, and there's no way nothing's going to happen. No way nobody's going to make me want to leave her. She is the love of my life. And I think to myself, my mother had 6 children, one after the other, traditional Irish flavor, and she left all of her children and never looked back. And I thought to myself, what happened? I never found out. I'll never know, because everybody's going to pop in with their 2 cents. And quite frankly, it really doesn't matter at this point.
She was just sick.
She left all of her children. And when I came to the United States at 19, I didn't have any animosity towards her, but she did not want me there. She had her 2 golden girls who had already left Ireland and came to the United States, and then I came as kind of I guess she felt like I was going to be flopped on her lap, but I was very independent and blah, 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 blah. Yes. So to answer your question, I forgive my mother. I do not forgive my father because he knew what was going on. He knew what not only was this happening to me, but it was also happening to all of my sisters. One way or another, we were being molested and raped. And my father didn't do a damn thing about it. Okay? So no, I don't forgive him. I don't know that I will ever. He's 93 now, and good luck to him. Could give 2 shits. My family are going to call one day and they're going to go, hey, Dad passed away, you need to get on the plane, you need to come to his grave. And I'll be like, oh, I'm not going to have no fucks to give.
Thank you, Sarah. Sarah, we've got Jessica and then Jenna.
Yep. Sorry, guys, I didn't answer. I'm kind of venting.
You're doing a great job,
honey.
You're still in the seat.
Yeah,
you're still in the seat.
Okay.
You got questions. It's Jessica and then Jenna.
I just sort of have more of, I guess, a statement that I just really, I commend you for sharing your story and just getting to this point and hanging on and thriving and being that amazing mom that I'm sure you are. And just personally, I resonate with drawing firm boundaries with family, and that if going to his funeral doesn't bring you joy, then don't go. And I don't subscribe, just personally, it's not a knock on anybody, I don't subscribe to the idea that you have to forgive everybody either. So I just thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's hard.
Thank you for that, Jenna.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing. I know that so much has happened to you. But my question is, what have you done or what are you planning to do to take your power back?
Well,
question.
that's a great question, and I am all about taking the fucking power back. Okay, absolutely. It's one of my tribal singing my head off in the shower to Bohemian Rhapsody, or you know, we will not let you go, we'll let you go, you know, like, pressure, you know. It's just like, you know, music. I'm a religious person, and that's mine. So that's, I'm not going to go into that. That's mine. My religious relationship with God is mine, and I'm not going to go into that because I'm going to bore you with it. I will tell you without hesitation that music has saved my life. Okay, and I look at artists like, and I'm going to say like because I just still have an 18-year-old, and every second word out of her mouth sometimes in the last year or so was like, you know, like. I'm just like, slap the like out of you, stop it. I wanted to do that, didn't. But I think some of my coping mechanisms have definitely been taking the power back is something that I've had to deal with my oldest daughter, who suffers mental illness, and she's tried to kill herself several times, and it's
That's okay, let it go.
I think Jennifer, who will be 30, is my... God, sorry.
It's
That's
all
why
right.
we're here.
She is my problem child, and I hate to say it like that, in the sense that she's my problem child, is because I'll get these phone calls when she's in a dark place, and we've all been there. None of us can sit in this room and say we've never been in a dark place. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm pretty confident of that. My daughter, who refuses to stay on any form of medication for any long periods of time because she doesn't believe or doesn't like the side effects or refuses to go back to her doctor. She's been a difficult child. And that's not saying that I'm saying to her, you're the difficult child. You know, you're just being difficult. I don't come across that way. It's more like, okay, so you've stopped taking your medication for this. Did you talk to your doctor about it? And she doesn't want to talk about it, which is, it just adds more angst to a parent. Yes. And so
generational carpet.
Carpet sweeping.
So both of my girls, even my stepdaughter, has mental issues, which again, when I go back to that mental spaghetti alphabet soup in my house, I've just been spending so much time trying to fix everybody else. I'm the fixer. I'm the girl that's gonna go, what do you mean you're sad? David Bowie, Elton John. We're going to find some music. We're going to dance. We're going to shake it off. Whip that bra off. What the hell's that on for? You know? You know, so I am the one that's going to bring that joy into their life and let them to cry and laugh again and hold them and comfort them. And I never had any of that. So I give them what I desperately needed in life. And I thought that I found in a husband, but did not. And that's okay. Because look at this. I'm going to find a new one. Just relax. Just take a breath.
Sarah, I have one question for you, and then we're going to move on. And
I'm really not that confident, just so we're clear.
There is another question in the phone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I want to make it clear that the purpose of this gathering is never to try and fix anyone. It's very important to understand that we're not here for therapy. But sometimes someone has a particular problem that me or someone else will have a little bit of wisdom to share if the person is open to it. And the story you just shared with us about your daughter reminds me of one of our other members. I don't need to say who it is, but he shared in a circle just like this that his daughter was cutting herself, and he cried as he shared with us how much it hurt him. And then he admitted to us that he had burned himself when he was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, have you ever talked to your daughter about how you would hurt yourself? And he said no. And I told him I can feel that if you do, it will have a very important effect on her. And he cried, and he said that he would, and he did, and it changed her life, and it changed their relationship. And I would invite you to imagine that your repression, your lifetime, ignoring what you know is hurting, is showing itself in your own daughter. That's your karma reflecting itself back to you. And if you can talk to her at a level of not repressing, if you can talk to her at a level of sharing your personal pain with her honestly, it will change the dynamic for you and her as well.
I would like to think that that was true in my circumstances. Jennifer pretty much knows to a certain extent. I have a very open relationship with my daughters. There's not really anything that we don't talk about, and I mean literally.
So she knows
my children come to me
with suicide as well.
She knows that it is not something that I would tell her the amount of times. I definitely have not gone that route with her, because I don't want her to grasp on that thinking, oh, that's what's wrong with me because it's you. You know, it's all your, because I'm fucked up because of you. I'm fucked up because, you know, you're fucked up, or your mother was fucked up, and this is just in our family, so it's normal. Like, she comes off like that a little bit with me, and that kind of irritates me. But I think even if we go back to December of 2023 at Christmas time, like, she'll call me, which is probably every 3 months, and she will be in a bathtub, and she'll be hysterical. And after 2 hours of me on the phone with her, talking her off the cliff, it will boil down to, she's laughing, we're singing, I'll put some music on. You know, it's my coping mechanism that I've taught her. Like, okay, listen, you can sit in the bathtub, and I want to hear what's wrong with you, and I want to find out what has changed in your life, like what has triggered this feeling or this moment where you feel useless, or you're not moving forward in life, or just her overall mental state has been a constant battle. And I say a battle because her doctor will put her on new medication, and she will decide, I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Go back to the doctor and tell them why. Like, so I can tell you, I'm on anxiety medication since I've been in the United States, but only since I moved to North Carolina and got married. That should tell you something. But it did help. But then I came off it figuring I don't want to be on this anymore. And I told my children and my husband at the time, I said, listen, I really don't feel like I need to be on this anymore. And I told them, like, we're having a meeting, we're having a family meeting, and I said, I don't want to be on this medication anymore, and I just want you all to know that, and I want you to keep an eye on me and let me know if you notice anything different, or I'm acting differently, or I'm too quiet, or I'm too angry, or I'm whatever. Just come to me and I will take everything into consideration. And they all flooded in and said, you need to be on medication. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But I decided, okay, I'll be on medication, but I'm going to try something else, which will go back to your cutting. So I went on this medication called Cymbalta, because everybody was talking about it. And oh, it was the best things in sliced bread. And I decided, well, it must be great. Let me add some butter on there and we're good to go. And I was sitting in the bathtub and I started cutting myself. And I was completely a space cadet. And I called my husband at the time and I said to him, I had the razor in my hand and I just kept cutting my arms. And he grabbed me and pulled me out of the bathtub. And I told him, I said, I don't like what this medicine is doing to me. And I can see that if you don't vocalize to your friends, let's say you don't have a wife or a husband or a significant other, you have friends and you need to confide in them. And you need to feel comfortable to confide in them and say to them, hey, listen, you know, I'm going on this new medication and I'm not sure how I'm going to react, but you're my support team and you're my backup. I need you to know that I'm either going to call you and I'm going to be in a desperate state, or you're going to look at me and go, you know, she seems a little bit more chirpy. She seems a little bit more happier. You know, she's got a little bit more skip in her step, you know. She seems to have it together. I have faked having it together for so bloody long that people just think, well, she's fine. There's no way she's on medication. Dude. The list is long, but I've narrowed it down, okay, to what actually works, because America is the pill world of pushing pills. And it's pushing their agenda and their pharma, and it's not all one fits all, which we know now. So when Jennifer, who now has gone off again her mental meds, and she's on the phone telling me this, I know that within the next 3 months, one of two things are going to happen. She's actually going to pull the trigger. In other words, she's actually going to kill herself, or I'm going to get that knock on the door, which is terrifying to me. To any parent, to any person that is involved in her life that love her so much. She's such a great person, and nobody wants to get that phone call. I don't want to get that phone call, and it petrifies me every time she tells me. I've decided not to take my meds, and I'm like, have you talked to your doctor? No. What do you mean, no? You know, medication isn't for everybody. I get that.
Thank you.
Okay, some of it is spiritual. Some of it is just finding yourself and overcoming all of the pain and the sorrow that you've had to adapt and change. And being human, you have to adapt to a lot of bloody changes. And you have to. This is normal. And I think that a lot of the stuff that we see on TV is like, oh, if you have contacted this, and you may have, you know, leaky discharge in your underwear, blah, 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 if you take this medication. And you're like, oh, shit, I'm not taking that, you know. So, you know, that's one of the side effects, per se. And, you know, I'm the comedian. I'm always going to find something funny. I'm always going to be entertaining. And I am at peace with that. I may offend people, but I've now come to the conclusion that I'm an equal opportunity offender. And I am okay with being me. And not just being me, but this year I've broadcasted all over Facebook. It's not just being me, it's just be. Okay? Amen. And let that be okay. And if it's not okay for everyone else, fuck them. I'm sorry. That is where I'm at this point in my life, because the struggle is real, and people aren't always going to get me, and they're not always going to get my humor, and they're not always going to understand where and why and how I've become this person, and I don't have to explain it to them at all. You either, and I actually came to that conclusion very young, not just at the old fart stage now, but even at 20 years of age, my attitude was take it or leave it. This is me. Because I was so strong and so confident, I thought. But my family in Ireland kept, my biological brothers and sisters would come down on me going, remember where you came from. And I'm thinking, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? You know? And remember where you came from. I'm trying to fucking block that shit fucking out, motherfucker. I don't want No.
Right.
Look. No, we're not doing that anymore.
Sarah,
Yes.
we have one more question.
I'm sorry.
But before we do, I want to make something really clear for anybody that has loved ones or you are struggling with medication. You can't ever know what someone is dealing with or where they're at, but there's a book called Confessions of an RX Drug Pusher. This woman was a salesman for Big Pharma for 10 years before her niece was on a cocktail of all the shit they give people nowadays, and she killed herself. And this woman found herself in a window about to jump out before she stopped taking all of her meds. And she did 2 years of research, and she wrote a book called Confessions of an RX Drug Pusher, and she makes it very clear that statistically, antidepressants are more likely to make you suicidal than they are to help you.
Yeah.
Statistically. So please be careful in how you judge whether other people want to take those meds or not, because they literally make people kill themselves more than they make people feel better.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that one doesn't work for you, and if it does, rock that shit.
Absolutely.
But don't judge other people's ability or inability to do it. We had one more question.
Oh, it wasn't really a question. It was kind of just a little bit of wisdom, and it goes back to the whole idea of forgiveness. That forgiveness is not about forgiving the behavior. It has nothing to do with the behavior. Forgiveness is about separating the behavior from the person, and then looking at the person, and then understanding and having compassion for, you said your father was very angry. Well, there's a reason he was angry, and it was being done to you. The way, the choices he made, the way he overlooked what was happening to you and all that has to do with that person, not his behavior. And so when you do the forgiveness, it's also not about a one-way thing. Forgiveness is not about, oh, I forgive you, I'm better than you because I forgive you. Or, no, I refuse to forgive you because I am better than you. It's not about that either, because it's a two-way street. Because whether you will agree with it or not, you participated, and on a higher level, not understanding why you participated, but the idea of forgiveness is to see that person and their pain and the way they are, and to be able to find a way to have compassion for that, so that you can release yourself from that chain of pain.
It's about you. You don't forgive for others; it's for yourself. That's
I mean, I think those are very good words of wisdom. And it's certainly something to consider. And that's all I can put on that. It is,
and she'll still be dancing on his fucking grave.
It's really about you letting go of your chain that is connected to that pain, so that you could move forward in your life.
I think
so. It's just, if it was just an idea, you don't even do it, you could throw it away, whatever, is to try to take that part of separating that action, because you're not forgiving the action, you're not forgiving what they did. What you're doing is, when you forgive that person, and you're forgiving yourself too, so that you can move on and let go of that stuff.
Well,
thank you.
I think that's great advice, and I thank you for that. However, I do still struggle, and the struggle again is real because
because pain is real.
You took the words out of my mouth. But I'll tell you, forgiveness has also had to come from my oldest child, because really she did get the shit show, and I did my father, like I said, he was violent, and when my teenager acted up with drugs, especially because I'm very anti-drug, and that's another venue for another time. I'm very against drugs, and she's very into drugs, and street drugs, if you know what I mean, like not just like, so I have zero tolerance for it. And so as a young teenager, she got knocked around a bit by me as a result of that, and I've asked her forgiveness,
Amen.
For that, because although I was so angry and so disappointed, and all those words a mother's going to spurt out because their kids fucking up on drugs. Okay, we don't want them to do that, you know, and they're not listening, and you think that the only way they're going to listen is if you smack it into them. And I already knew that wasn't the answer or the solution, but I didn't know what else to do. As a single mom, I just felt like I was things were way out of control. But we have, when she was 16, I used to, I know this sounds a little crazy, but have you met me? I used to go to CVS and get drug testing kits, and I used to have my daughter do random drug testing, okay, which was it was my rule in my house. And so if she failed the test, in the sense like she could smoke pot, weed, I don't give a shit, that's fine, okay, that's okay. I wasn't happy about it, but whatever, you know. But once you did mollies and cocaine and anything else about that, that's trouble for me. That's you going to end up in prison, jail, or die, or just become a useless part of society, and I didn't have any time for it. And so she failed one of these tests, and I kicked her out, and I told her she could just leave, because everything that was in the house I'd paid for. I was a tough mom. I was a tough bitch. When it came to that, I had zero tolerance. And then I decided that I'm gonna look at this in another light. I'm gonna turn this around. And so once a year, my daughter Jennifer and I would go to Tybee Island for 3 days, 3-day weekend. Okay, and during this 3-day weekend, it was a tell-all of all the stuff that you've done wrong, no consequences, and no fighting. And that was what we did. So we go down to Tybee Island, we'd sit out, no alcohol, by the way, until after. Okay, we you know, trust me, that was the hard part for me. So Jennifer would start out with like, so remember when you were working and blah, blah, blah? Well, me and 20 of my friends showed up at the house and we had a party and the police showed up and blah, 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 blah. She just vomits all this shit that I didn't even have a clue about. But she needed to get it out. And I was able to listen and not judge her or discipline her or smack her, or just listen and say, okay, I can't believe you did that, and I didn't notice, first of all. And so then she would say, then it would flip to me, and she'd say, okay, it's your turn. And I was like, okay, so remember the time that you thought that Janelle's husband was her husband, but she really wasn't? It was her uncle's brother's, father's, mother's, other's lawnmower guy. Well, I banged him in the back, so just so you know, like, it was stupid shit. But she was just like, you know, I can't believe that. And I'm like, I can't believe you partied at the fucking house. So we developed this rapport where it was good to vomit out the aspirations of what you're keeping inside, like, oh my God, I hope she never finds out, or I bet you this friend's going to rat me out, or something like this, because you're holding all this stuff in. And I thought, this is really going to, and I don't know where I got this idea from, but it just came to me, and it was the best flipping thing, and continues to this day. Okay, continues to this day, where I'm like, are we going for 3 days? And she's like, do you need to go for 3 days? And I'm like, shit, bitch, I need to go for 4 days. What you got? You know? So we have that no blame game. We don't have that guilt. We don't have that I'm the bad child, or you're disappointed, or any of those acronyms that you want to throw out there that a child is going to feel that they always want to impress their parents, or they want to be the best of that. But they know they can't, because they're only human. You know, they're going to be partying too much. They're going to be encouraged. They're going to explore and do different things, and they're going to take chances. They're going to take chances more so than I did, because I was always in defense mode. Always in defense, always that. So you talked about earlier about taking the power back. that was one of the powers that have been that where I said, I am not going to become hysterical and get mad and screaming and slamming doors. That's not a solution. So I twisted it and I said, we're going to put another spin on this, and we're going to go to a beach and we're going to splurge out everything we have to. That's happened in the last year. And then we're going to have a lovely meal and have a few drinks and laugh about it and say, I can't believe you did that. Like, so that is taking somewhat of the power back when it came to my child and that of my stepdaughter too, is I want them to feel like no matter what you did or you think you did is that bad, you're not in prison. It really isn't that bad. And I want you to come to me knowing that you can talk to me about absolutely anything. And let me tell you, some of these things I don't really want to know about, especially the sex part. But I'm open to it, and then I have to just sometimes block some of that shit out. And then we have to come to a conclusion where, hey, you know what, how about we just like leave that part out? How about I don't want to know that you like getting choked out, because that's like I can't know.
All right, thank you.
You know, it's too much.
Thank you.
So taking the power back from me is standing up and having a good time, bringing joy back. And I'm going through a divorce.
Thank you,
right now, and I have gotten a job. I am getting my ducks in a row, and when you fuck with me, anyone that knows that will know that they're going to meet Sarah. And Sarah is not somebody to fuck with.
Thank you so much, dear.
Sorry. Love you.
So I think we're gonna have
All right,
to,
Sarah, go ahead and
we're gonna have to do a Neurodivergent 2, but you're good, honey. Thank you.
Man.
Thank you.
I told you you'd get me
we
up
have
here.
to do a
It's going
Neurodivergent
to be
2
it.
because for the very first time since we've been doing this, we only had 2 people for the whole time. We're already over time. So thank you guys for the depth of your shares. That's amazing. Really appreciate the vulnerability. We're going to wrap it up now, and then please don't feel like you got to rush, because you're welcome to hang out.
Oh my God! Let's just have a big round of applause for everybody, the share cherries and the audience participants tonight. You guys this was some heavy ass shit. Usually our stuff is heavy, but like we jumped in bigger today. It seemed like it
super deep.
And really, even after all of that, I feel like it was scratching the surface too.
We'll have to do a sequel, because I know there's more people that need to share. For real.
Like, hey, show of hands, who else wanted to speak tonight? Heather, you just itched your eye, but that was subliminal.
At least
you guys,
2.
I know. Okay, and then back here, was there any? Okay, well, anyways,
please come back.
Yeah, we're gonna do. We keep on doing these things. Usually, it's about every 2 weeks or so. So follow Big Love Yoga Barn on Facebook and Instagram. Follow myself, Jason Kearse, on Facebook and Instagram. That's how we promote this on social media. Follow Satek. How do you prefer to be followed, Satek?
TikTok, Satek Ananda.
So also, as mentioned earlier, some of the donations from this event help to go to Big Love Yoga Barn and our relocation fund, as well as your facilitators of the evening. So if you'll just pass around these QR codes, you can make a donation. Some of that goes to Big Love Yoga Barn. Like I said, we're getting ready to create a whole new space. PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, where you can just give cash to. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, you can just circulate that around.